Namo Namo Tama Shriye So Om Namo Manju Shriye Namo Shriye Namo Tama Shriye So. There's a camera up there behind us, so I hope it wasn't switched on. It's not such a good view, is it? And there too. Yes, don't stick your Italian head in front of the camera, then it'll all go wrong. I think he switched it on. Did you switch it on? Did he switch it on? Is it on? Is it on?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Hello, hello, are you on? You hear a voice from the background. Yes, it's on. It's so bright, I feel like I'm in summer.
It was summer today.
Eh?
It was summer today.
It was summer today. Oh, it's you.
Yeah.
You actually came all the way from Switzerland.
Through Italy.
Through Italy.
Yeah. I flew to Oslo from Milan.
I see. So I met him in Bern in Switzerland, and he said, I will come to Stockholm.
And I brought a friend.
I need to know about karma. So tonight I'm not going to talk about karma. Tonight we talk about patience. No, I'm joking. But maybe we should. Anyway, welcome to all of you. Is there anybody, apart from you, have you taken any Dharma teachings, Buddhist teachings before?
She's my friend from France.
Yeah.
You've taken before?
Yeah.
You know something?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? New? Totally new? Totally new. You know nothing. Okay. Nada. And everybody else knows something. I feel like I need sunglasses. Or one of these Dalai Lama hats. You know, that I could do like that. Oh yeah, I see you now. So, first of all, we should start with motivation. Why are we here? So, because there's nothing good on TV, there wasn't a good movie on, they have nice tea, or it's warm, or I'm lonely, or you know, we can come up with many, many reasons, right? But in Buddhism, the main reason would be to become enlightened, to be enlightened. That would be numero uno, as we say in France. Right? Numero uno.
We say number one.
Oh.
Première raison.
We really don't need your commentary. I'm the one who's linguistically up there. So numero uno, up there, you know, would be enlightenment. That would be the best, if you could. And then we'll have to talk about, well, so what does it mean? Then bodhicitta, bodhicitta, not cheater as in taking the money off you, like C-H-E-A-T-E-R, cheater, not a cheetah, but C-H-I-T-T-A, bodhicitta. So some people spell it C-H-I-T-T-A, some people spell it C-I-T-T-A, Sanskrit and Pali. So what it means is big mind. Lama Lundrup, the abbot of Kopan, used to say big mind. Big because it includes every single living being, every being. You can't leave out one being. You can't leave out one ant, then no bodhicitta. You can't leave out one enemy, then no bodhicitta. So I often say, I think we have a room in our mind where we put the enemy or the disturbing person, you know, and we put them in there, and we lock the door, and we say, okay, bodhicitta, all sentient beings, except for this room, you know? And then that seems acceptable, because we sort of partition them off, you know? We put them away, and we lock the door. So with bodhicitta, you have to unlock the door. You have to bring out all these disturbing people, all these difficult people. Not just from now, but from the past, when you were a child, as you were growing up. Where's your resistance to a person or an animal? You know, some people are cat people, but they don't like dogs. So the dogs are in the room. All dogs in the room. I'm not liberating them, because a dog bit me when I was 3 years of age. And ever since then, I don't like dogs. Right? So then we have a resistance to dogs. Actually, I remember when I was a child, my mother took me to Trafalgar Square in London, and there's lots of pigeons, you know, and you go and feed the pigeons, and you get shit on, like right on your head. And I'm, oh, Mum, you know, and she said, very good luck. So this is very Irish, you know, you shit on, so it's very good luck. Huh?
It's the same in my country.
Yeah?
Yeah, we said it's a good luck.
Yeah. So, you know, as a child, you don't say, oh, whoopee. You know, isn't it wonderful? For the rest of your life, you could say, I don't like birds. And you don't know why. But you're stuck with this way of thinking because something happened to you as a child, isn't it? So then we have to keep checking this room as we're going deeper and deeper into our practices. That is there one room or many rooms? Maybe there's a bird room, there's a dog room, there's a next door neighbor room, there's the ex-husband room, ex-wife room, you know, ex-friend room, the friend who said they'd help you and then they let you down, or the friend that borrowed some money and never paid you back, and you know, so many things happen in society. So bodhicitta, when we say big mind, what we're referring to is a mind, I think, that's inconceivable. For us, it's inconceivable to have a mind that big without any resistance to anybody. Any human, any animal, any insect, any being from any realm. You know, there are 6 realms. No resistance to any of them. So of course, when we start in our Dharma practice, Dharma means something you're putting into practice. What do you want to put into practice? Something to change your mind. What's this place called? A place to change your mind. Mind training. So it sounds easy, doesn't it? I'll just train my mind, then everything will be good. I'll be happy. But part of this mind training is you're looking at the resistance that you have towards your world. Each one of us has our own story, don't we? We move through our world with our own little stories. We're the director, the producer. Most importantly, we're the star. You know, I am the star. And I think everybody else is in my movie, but they also think I'm in their movie. So we move that way through the world, feeling very important, but actually for others maybe not so important at all. For myself, I'm important, you know, so I demand so many lights. I said to them, I must have at least 20 glaring lights, and then I'll feel important. So if you get 18 lights, you're not important. If you get 20 lights, you're important. If you get flowers, you're important. And if you don't get flowers, you're not important. We can be so sensitive like that, looking for indicators. If you become a teacher or you know, in this sort of work, there can be signs of whether there's respect or there's no respect. So does that mean you go up? If there's more flowers, there's more lights. And if there isn't, you go down. You know? So, does your mind go up and down depending on what people are doing, or your decision inside yourself, your decision how you want to be, how you want to manifest in your world? So for me, this is very important, you know, that in the beginning of our Dharma research, if you like, our checking of Dharma, that when we start checking Dharma, then what we're talking about is our spiritual life. It's starting with the mind, and then that mind, that way of thinking, starts to come into your work, into your relationship, into your friends, into your life. So that then Dharma, and the word Dharma, we talk about Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. So Dharma, that word, means to hold you. And it means to hold you on a virtuous path. So there's Buddha Dharma, Christian Dharma, Muslim Dharma. There's all different sorts of Dharmas. It's not that we've got the copyright on the whole thing, but when we talk about Dharma, we're talking about Buddha Dharma, of course. But there's other Dharmas. As long as that Dharma holds you on a virtuous path, it's okay. But if that Dharma is telling you to do something harmful, then you have to check. Same with Buddhism. Buddha said, check. As if you're buying gold. If you go to a shop, and that shop says, this is 22 karat gold. Sure. You say, okay, but I have to check. Then what would you do? These days, what would you do? Would you know how to check gold? No. What do we do? Okay, Google. Right? Okay, Google. And she says, yes. And you say, how to check gold? And she said, it's not cold today in Stockholm. No, Google. I said, gold, gold. Sometimes it's just easier to type, you know. So she's totally confused, you get totally confused. But how to check gold? We don't know. But in the old days, they knew how to check gold because there was fool's gold. Remember fool's gold? You know, it looked like gold, but it wasn't gold. So we want to know, is it real? Is it true? So Dharma, something holding you on a virtuous path. We talked about enlightenment. Is it a path leading to enlightenment? Is it a path leading to bodhicitta? Bodhicitta means this big mind, big heart. Is that what you want? And if you say, well, no, I don't. I want many rooms with many doors locked. Okay, you're in the wrong place. There's not a tea break, but at 9 o'clock you can run out the door and never be seen again. Because this will not lead you to where you want to go. You have to know what this is going to lead to. Where the Dharma is leading you, right? So this awakened mind, we can call Buddha, but awakened mind. When Buddha was enlightened, then he was asked, who are you? He said, I woke up. That's all. He didn't say, I'm incredible. I'm unbelievable. You know, he didn't say like that. He said, I woke up. So the word Buddha means to wake up. So the teachings are asking you to wake up. So you think, well, this is very strange. I'm awake. I'm sure I'm awake, right? Because I'm listening. But it means to wake up out of ignorance. Out of ignorance. And ignorance doesn't mean I don't know how to use a computer or I don't know how to program something. You know, you get the TV these days or a DVD player and you get a book. You know, page number 1, press this button and then you have to do this and this and this and this. Everything technological, so complicated. So we think, oh, I'm really stupid, I'm ignorant. It doesn't mean that sort of ignorance. It means a particular ignorance, not understanding how things exist. How do things exist? We think enemy exists. So we've got a room. Enemy room. I know where you're going. The enemy room, and I'm going to lock the door. You know? So psychologically, we use a lot of energy for the enemy room. Right? Then we have our friends. So, how many? Not so many, really. If you say good friend, how many? 10, 20, 30, like that. So you've got the friend room. They're not locked away, but you've got them there. They're there for you. The people you don't know? Countless. 7 billion. You know, the bigger number. So the reaction we have to the bigger number is, I really don't care about you. You walk down the street, think, don't care, don't care, don't care. Oh my goodness, what sort of outfit is that? So if you're into fashion, then as you're walking down the street or in the mall or wherever, and you see something horrendous, then you think, don't care, don't care. You're not even aware of the reaction. Don't care, don't care, don't care. Oh my goodness, that's dreadful. Or oh my goodness, that's really amazing. That's when the reaction comes. But most of the time, we're just cruising along, not really aware, not really awake. So Buddha's asking us, wake up. Instead of seeing outfits, t-shirts, jeans, tops, whatever, scarves, colors of things, way people dress. You know, this superficiality. We notice this so much now, the superficial. But we're not noticing the heart, what's deeper, the mind. And interchangeable, mind, heart. You know, we use that word interchangeably. When we're talking about heart, we don't mean the organ, you know, we just mean the mind, because the mind is in this area, in the heart region. And then it moves around. So, we're going along, cruising along, but often with the mind not so sharp, not so aware. Noticing, but only noticing what suits us, what's in accordance with what we want to notice. We have our parameters, we have our mental rules, what we want to notice and what we don't want to notice. So this is not really awake. We're not really awake. We're half asleep. And we think this half asleep is beneficial. I think some sort of, I'm trying to think of what the mode would be. Some sort of sleep mode, half awake mode or something, you know, saving electricity. So it's some sort of saving electricity mode, you know, that you would put your computer into, or your electrical devices, and you're going to save some money. But in this case, we think that more happiness and less suffering is going to come from this half-sleep mode, not engaging, the mind not engaging with what's going on. But actually, more happiness comes from engaging, from knowing what goes on. Because if we don't know what's going on, we start to rely on the media to tell us what's going on. And then the media appears to have bias. It has some sort of political agenda. So then you need to read 3 or 4 newspapers, or you need to listen to 3 or 4 radio stations or TV stations. You need to get news from different sources so that you know what's going on, rather than them telling you from one perspective. So I started off with enlightenment, this to light up. Not like manic, but to light up in the sense of fully engaged, fully aware. But knowing when not to engage and knowing when to engage. So this is something amazing, this quality of compassion with wisdom that then looks at the situation and says, I can do something, I can help, I can engage, I should engage. Or I can't do anything, leave it alone, and you step back. This is also wisdom, to know when to step forward and when to step back, or where to stay. So the enlightened mind, having removed all karma and delusion, karma means action, delusion means negative states of emotion. So having removed all karma and all delusion, even the subtlest obscuration, the subtlest stain has been removed, then you can have full omniscience. You can have what we call enlightenment. It was all there inside you, but it was being obscured by your karma and your delusion. So your mind is pure. Buddhism doesn't have an injection of purity, so we're not selling you the idea of, like Botox, that we have an injection, and if you join us, there's an injection of enlightenment, and then you'll be enlightened. It's not like that. We can't give you enlightenment. Because I think sometimes people get the idea Buddhism will give you enlightenment. We can't. Maybe it's a bad thing to say, then maybe you don't support the Dharma Center and you don't come anymore. Or maybe you come more because then you think, oh, they're honest. But you have the enlightenment potential within you. That enlightenment potential is being obscured. Then we need methods to remove the karma, to know what's positive karma, what's negative karma, what's a positive emotion, what's a negative emotion. We need methods that help us to understand that. What to avoid, what to promote, what to purify, how to purify. We need to know these methods. So Buddhism gives you all of that. So in Switzerland, I was saying what Buddha could have done. He could have said, well, there's 9 books. So I'll teach you all of Buddhism in 9 books. And then you get to the 9th book and you think, well, this is strange. It seems like something's missing. And then the Buddhists say, well, there's a 10th book. And the 10th book is called The Secret. And then you have to buy the 10th book. And then you buy the 10th book, and then they say, well, that wasn't exactly it. There's an 11th book, which is the very secret. And it could go on and on like this, that we're always keeping something back. I think sometimes it seems like we're too open. We give everything. All the Buddhism is given to you. And maybe that's too much. No, the whole system is there in front of you. And then maybe you think, so what to do with that whole system? It's a lot. How to live my life in the most positive way possible. How to start. So how to start is motivation. Every single day to have a positive motivation for the day. Not to get up just because you have to get up, but to get up in the most positive way possible. So what's an example of a motivation? Give me an example. New lady, this should be interesting. Usually the most enlightened ones, what would you get up for? Anybody? What?
To meditate.
That's it? To meditate. So you've got the motivation to get up to meditate, and then? Tea?
Tea, yes.
Goodness gracious, she's so British. And you?
For some months, I get up in the morning with the goal to found an association for disabled people mentally and physically, and make their life, give them food for free, clothes for free, and make their life within the law better.
You're
That's what I
amazing.
aim for.
This guy is totally amazing.
I'm not showing off, I'm just saying the truth.
Yeah. He gave away all his money in Zurich train station, right?
I give away all my
30,
money all the time.
32 francs or 34
Yeah.
francs?
For a guy who was in
Who said he had cancer.
Yeah, but then I thought.
Then you
maybe-
thought maybe he doesn't have cancer.
But I know he does, and I know it's true. I thought about it again.
But how much did you give him? 30?
30.20 or 30.40 francs.
Right. So all the money he had, there was a man who came up to him in Zurich train station and said, I've got terminal cancer, please help me. And he gave his last cent to this guy. So in Buddha's time, there was a king who gave the Buddha some money. And then there was a very poor man who gave very little. And the Buddha said, what this poor man gave was far greater than what the king gave.
You want to know the following of the story?
No.
To come here, I had to hitchhike from Lausanne to Milan.
Yeah.
So, but instead, a guy put me up, gave me food, gave me 100 francs. Then another girl gave me 20 francs. Then another woman, 2 women gave me 50 euros on my way to Milan. In 24 hours Spain time, 200 euros. So, and it was only less than a week after.
I
So-
should try this. This is the way to. This is the way to go.
I didn't have the goal to receive that money, but I needed it,
And it came.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how it was.
So you
now.
purely gave your money out of generosity,
Yes.
and then all this comes back.
I don't care.
Yeah.
And if I have, I burn 3 fags instead of 2 because of my nice looks. Whatever. If I burn,
Really, people think you have nice looks, or just you?
Okay, I burn 2 or 3 fags, but then and say I'm going to smoke them, or say the truth. The truth is I smoke 1 and I give the 2 others to the first beggar I find. If I don't find a beggar, I can smoke another one, but the 3rd one has to go to a beggar. And if I have 2.20 and the coffee is 1.80, I give 10 cents to the waiter as a tip. And then 30 francs. I never keep money. Money is dirty. I never keep it. I always give away. And I always spend the very little I have.
It's like it's a bodhisattva. She wants your money,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but he doesn't have any because it's all gone.
I have 20.
They offer in 20 francs. Lovely.
The only 20, it's like 2 euros, I have to say. It's not more than 22 euros.
Yeah,
Yeah. I beg for that, so it's okay.
I know.
Just for blessing.
This is how he is. You know, this is the life that he leads. But for most of us, what we're thinking of is money, security, home. You know, we want all these securities around us, holding us. So when he wakes up, he's thinking how to benefit, how to help others, right? How many of us do that?
In the future.
Yeah. But today, I want today.
Yeah, I do.
There is no future.
Selection.
You're going to die today.
No.
You will. At 10 o'clock tonight, you'll be dead.
Okay.
10 o'clock tonight, you're dead.
What was my goal for the last hours? Go to the prisons and talk to them. Or the
You won't have
people.
time. We finish at 9 o'clock. You're dead at 10 o'clock tonight. You've only got 1 hour.
I wouldn't try to
Climb the wall.
Skydiving.
Skydiving,
No,
bungee jumping.
No, I just live my life like every day.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking you to do is actually think about your lives as if it's much shorter than what we expected, right? Because we think life is going to go on and on and on. And as we get older, we move the line and we think 60's old, then we think 80's old, then we think 100's old, and we keep moving the line, right? So when you're in your 20s, you think 30 or 40 is old. When you get to 40, you think 60 is old. So we keep moving the line.
I have to say it's quite easy because of the state of the world right now. If you do read between the lines, if you do have several media sources, then you're prepared. On Netflix, there's only series about post-apocalyptic or shit, you know. So there's something big that has to happen. My association for disabled people is not only for disabled people. There's a third part for ecological part that it's such a good idea. I don't tell anybody, but I prepared everything, and I'm going to do something ecological big. You know, I told you about the REV something, the green one. That's something that's going to happen soon in the whole world. That's my mission. That's
Okay.
And I'm not some missionary from the sky or something. It's concrete. It's
Okay.
concrete as in.
So now you have to keep quiet.
Sorry.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay. Otherwise we won't finish tonight.
Okay.
Then I'm in big trouble tomorrow. Because we have a mission, isn't it? To become enlightened. So, what I asked you is, this is your homework. Why are you getting out of bed today? Or tomorrow, or the next day, the next day. So nowadays I tell people, even before they get out of bed, to have the motivation for getting out of bed. This is very important also if you get depressed, because many people in society now get depressed. Oof, another day, I have to go to work, another day, I have to clean the house, another day, whatever it is. But it's as if we're wasting days on this negative emotion. So what we want is the most positive emotion to live by. So if you're intolerant, then you need more tolerance. This is the mind training, right? If you don't worry so much or care so much about others, you need to start caring about others. Maybe not bodhicitta, but what about compassion, love, kindness? Even kindness is something amazing. How many people are really kind? Never mind compassionate and loving, but maybe we start with kindness, maitri. So, when you have that motivation for the day, then I want you to keep that motivation for a week, and actually in this case a week is 6 days, not 7. So, a week or a month. Don't keep changing it. Otherwise you get completely confused. Halfway through the day you're thinking, was it a compassion day? Was it a patience day? What was it? You know, you're completely lost. So it's better to keep the same motivation 6 days or 1 month. Because if you say 2 weeks, you get to the second week, and you think, what am I on? The first week or the second week? We lose it, you know. So it's better to be, March is this, April is this. You know, be clear about it. In this month, this is what I practice. Whatever it is. You're doing some practice in order to perfect it so that when the difficult situation arises, your instinct, your habit is to respond with, that's your motivation. So what do you want to respond with? Is it compassion? Is it love? Is it kindness? What's the response? If you're impatient, angry, intolerant, then you need to really think about that and do the opposite. You want to have love. Love is, I want you to be happy. So the opposite of anger and impatience is love. Because if I want you to be happy, then I'm not going to be angry with you. So I tell people now, we used to say, get out of bed, wash your face, get on the cushion. But now I say, before you get out of bed, in that time that you're lying in bed, you know, and the alarm goes beep, 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 and you go, oh. You're flopping around trying to find the alarm, you know, switch the thing off. Many people don't wake up joyous, they wake up sort of, ooh, another day. So we want to change that into something very positive. So the reason I'm getting out of bed is this positive thing. So I'm not putting down what you're saying about meditation, but if your motivation is to get out of bed to meditate, as soon as you've meditated, your motivation is finished. Right? So that's my concern, is that we want something that's going to pervade the the day. It's going to be mixed with the day. It's like a thread that goes through the day. So if you say, love, I want you to be happy, then that thread of I want you to be happy goes throughout the day, whether you remember or you don't. The main thing is to have the motivation. But whether you remember or not, that was your motivation for the day. So every action done after that motivation becomes one of love, whether you remember or not. So this is very important. It means you're multiplying, you're increasing the power of all your activities very easily, very skillfully. You know, this is not brain science or anything. It's not, you know, how to operate on the brain. This is easy. I'm not teaching you the most difficult philosophical methods. I'm teaching you something really easy that you can do tomorrow morning. And it will totally change your life. Because you're getting out of bed for a positive reason, for a purpose. I have a purpose, right? My purpose is, you fill in the blanks. Then, if you can, through the day, remind yourself. But as I said, even if you can't, the day is based on it. I really like having the idea of a diary. I mention this a lot as I'm teaching around the world, that if you don't keep a diary, a spiritual diary, for a week or 2 weeks, you don't really know your mind. Because we're often self-critical, isn't it? We don't have this beating stick. I made this mistake, I made this mistake. Especially when people come into Dharma. They think, oh dear, mistake, mistake, mistake. They don't notice all the positive things that they're doing, but they notice the negative. And so I was studying something the other day. It was a scientific study, and it said 1/3 of the people have been found to have DNA for bliss. They call it some bliss, something or other, some sort of scientific term, but it's got bliss in there. 1/3 of the people are primed for bliss. 2/3 are primed for depression. 2/3. Here we are. You know, maybe there's 1, 2 in here, but got to get out of bed, got to make breakfast, got to go to work. Oh, you know, it can be like that. And sometimes you bounce out of bed. It's Sunday. No work, boing. But the weekday, if you're not really joyous in your work, it can be difficult. So, 1/3 of the people have bliss, 2/3 don't. What they have is, you know this Velcro? You know Velcro? Velcro is this... Velcro. You know, it's this stuff that sticks together? Yeah. We have Velcro for suffering, Teflon for happiness. Remember this. Teflon for happiness. The happiness that we have just sort of glides off us. And Velcro, we stick to it. And we think about it and think about it and think about it. It keeps going around and around and around. So we increase our suffering and we decrease our happiness. And we have to teach ourselves to do it the other way round. We have to have Velcro for happiness and Teflon for suffering. Right? We learn from the suffering, but there's no need to keep holding on to it. Years later, that bird did that on my head. You know? It can be 20 years later, 30 years later. I remember. Would you like to come to Trafalgar Square? Oh no, there was a bird. You know? These sort of historical, no, or hysterical. It could be either, actually. Historical or hysterical memories from a long time ago can still be affecting the way you are today, the way you behave today, the way you go through your life today. So how to retrain, how to reprogram so that we get to go in the direction that we want to go. First thing is motivation. Why are you getting out of bed? Then if you want to do the diary, every 2 hours, stop for 1 minute or 2 minutes. And in your diary, you have times, like 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 12, 2, 4, 6. So about every 2 hours. It's good to have a small diary, that you can easily carry. If it's too big, or one of these.
No, not one of these.
Huh?
Never used
She wants one of these. Not you. We're not saying you have to have one. But positive and negative. So 2 columns. Does anybody have low self-esteem? Low self-confidence?
used to.
So, now what you have to do is not have the negative column. Only the positive. This will drive you crazy. Just the positive column. So every 2 hours, what happened in the last 2 hours that was positive? I can remember the negative, but the positive, more difficult. Because the more positive is the one that's Tefloned. You understand? So this is what we're doing. We're avoiding the more positive, but we're sticking to the more negative. So every 2 hours, you have to check in, and then you're saying to yourself, okay, what happened in that 2 hours that was positive, that I did well? And you make a note. Just 1 word, 2 words, just make a note. And at the end of the day, then your practice at the end of the day is to go back through the day, sit in a comfortable chair when you get home. If you're alone or you've got kids, you first have to look after the kids. If you've got relationship, partner, whatever it is, first take care of business. Then when you've got time, you can sit down, you can relax. Take 15 minutes, go back through your diary, and it's a patting yourself on the back session. Positive, 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 and you're patting yourself on the back. I did well. I did that well. I did that well. I could have been angry. I had a lady in Zurich. She said, I've been angry for a long time. But she said, from listening to these 2 nights of teachings about anger and fear, she could feel the anger coming up and she stopped it. And then she stopped the ego. This is major. This is after 4 hours of teaching. She's been angry for 20, 30 years. She said, I could see the ego and I stopped it. And then I spoke in a reasonable way. That quickly, some change can happen. So that's what we're looking for. Not change happening in 20, 30 years, but change happening as fast as possible. Because we want to be doing positive actions and encouraging them. We want to decrease the negative actions, which is what we're studying on the weekend, karma, cause and effect. So what wrote the story that we're starring in? Who wrote it? Well, they did. We sort of put the blame out there, isn't it? Or he did. But Buddhism doesn't have a God, so then you can't put the blame on a God. It's all your fault I'm suffering. You can't blame him. So what it comes back to is you can only blame yourself. If there's big problems in your life, you created them. So then that habit can often follow through into this life from past lives. And then what you discover is that in the positive, you're not really positive. Totally, 100% involved in the positive action. That often what we do is pull back from the positive. So, we don't practice generosity, totally 100% I give. It's like I give, but mentally I pull back a bit. So I give, but then I regret. Did I give to the right beggar? Did I give to the right person? Maybe they weren't real, whatever. So we can think like that. We don't know, right? The only thing we know is what they tell us. and what you see. But we can't tell what's going on inside, so you just give. You give unconditionally. You give with the best of motivations, with the best of actions, with the best of dedications. So at the end of the day, for those of you with low self-esteem, low self-confidence, what I want you to do is this patting yourself on the back and saying, well done, well done, well done. We don't do this. In our society, we avoid this because we think what's going to happen is we're going to get big ego. That's the least of our problems. The major problem we have is that we're not confident about doing positive actions. And that lack of confidence later in life will prove to be your downfall. Because at the time of death, when you're leaving the body, what's going to come up? That lack of confidence. That feeling of, oh, you know, like this. I don't do things really well. I'm not really a good person. We need to be sure we are good people. How do you know? You keep a diary for a week or two, then you'll know. Then it becomes obvious, right? We are good people. We don't need to be told by anybody else we're good people because the evidence is here. You're showing yourself in your diary. You understand? If you don't have that diary, spiritually it's difficult to monitor your behavior, especially as changes are happening. A bit more tolerance, a bit more patience. So you call your mother and you say, Mum, this is incredible. Today I was really patient. And she says, and then? And you say, well, it's a big deal. Before I would have got angry. And she says, and then? You know? Because it's spiritual, often the changes are small, but for us it feels amazing. It's something incredible. But the other person doesn't really understand how incredible it is. So you need to be the one who pats yourself on the back. You need to be the one who says, well done. So that's at the end of the day, going back through the day, looking at your actions. These are only the positive actions. If your self-esteem, self-confidence then normalizes, you're in the middle. Then what you want to do is have a positive, negative diary. So the positive, of course, the good things that you've done in the day. The negative, the mistakes that we make. We're particularly looking for a major delusion. Delusion, do you understand? Afflictive emotion. There's 84,000 of them. You might find one or two. So Buddha taught 84,000. Then he stopped. He said, okay, it's enough. So you Google it, you know. And like 1 million come up, you know. So in Buddhism, this is very clear what an afflictive emotion is and what afflictive emotions do. Afflictive emotions lead to action. With every negative action, there is an afflictive emotion or a delusion, this negative state of mind, with every action. So if you stop your afflictive emotions, these negative actions also will stop. And you think, wow, how incredible. But, there's always got to be a but, right? The main afflictive emotion is ignorance. This is this fundamental misunderstanding of how things exist. So all you have to do is study emptiness, wisdom, have a realization of emptiness, wisdom, and then your actions will stop. Your afflictive emotions with those afflicted actions will stop. Sounds easy.
Say it again.
How is it possible? Which part? From the very beginning. Okay, I'll have to rewind. It sounds like I'm speaking Swedish, right? Yeah, which part?
The last 3 sentences.
Oh, goodness gracious. The last 3 sentences.
No, you
The
were saying.
realization of emptiness.
So,
Emptiness.
We have afflictive emotions,
Yes.
and as the basis of action, there is always an afflictive emotion.
Yes.
The main afflictive emotion is ignorance,
Yes.
not understanding how things exist.
Yes.
Okay? From not understanding how people, objects exist, we have a response. Ooh, I really like this flower, or ooh, I really don't like this flower. The poor flower hasn't done anything, but already it's communicating to me that I like or don't like, I don't care. So I've got 3 flowers here, right? I like, I don't care. Like people. So I like, I don't care, I like, I don't like, I don't... Like that, okay? What's the foundation? Where does it come from? Ignorance.
Yes.
So this misunderstanding of how things exist. I think there is enemy-ness and friend-ness, like Loch Ness. It appears to be coming from its side, like the monster comes out of the water. It appears to be coming from its side, but actually it's coming from my side.
Yes.
Okay?
Projection, yes.
The projection is happening from my mind onto the object, which is merely shape and colour. Every object is shape and colour. The information is being fed into the computer through my eye organ, my eye consciousness, and to the brain and to the mind. And then very quickly, within split seconds, it goes bzzz, like, bzzz, don't like that. Very quickly, in split seconds. Based on previous karmic actions,
Yes.
based on previous emotions,
Yes.
from beginningless time.
Yes.
On and on and on and on and on. Into this life, and we never challenged it before. We never got to the point with any of this where we say, hold on, whoever you are in there, my criticizing, judgmental little person in there, where's this coming from? This I like, I don't care. Where's it coming from? You know? And then, yeah, where is it coming from? Well, I don't know. I discovered it was coming from my mother, who was Irish, and she had this blue and green thing going on. You know, so blue and green cannot be seen except with a colour in between. This is a very profound teaching, people. She didn't mention murder. Killing, stealing, lying, murder, my mother never mentioned. But incessantly, on and on. Blue and green should not be seen except with a colour in between. So I'd be in a room full of people, inevitably, always there's somebody wearing blue and green. Because jeans, you know, jeans are always blue, but they used to be, blue and a top, often green. So I think, no, 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 right? My mind would be automatically saying, no, no, no. And then one day I thought, why is my mind saying no to that person? So the next day they could be wearing all green. Yes. They've changed to yes. But on the day before they're a no. Why? Because this imprint I got into my mind from my mother, who's a very important person when I'm small. She's big, she knows. She's teaching me how to protect myself in the big bad world. So she gave me very important information. Right? Life-saving information. And I'm passing it on to you. Blue and green should not be seen, except with a colour in between. Right? So this is crazy, isn't it? It's totally crazy. When you think, why? So when we look at our behavior, you start to look at your diary. Sometimes you find irrational thoughts, irrational behavior. It doesn't seem realistic at all, livable. So what you're looking for in your diary is something that you think you have judged needs to be changed. You've decided, it needs to be changed. Not they decided, not your father, your husband, your wife, whatever, but you've decided this particular behavior needs to be changed. So sometimes it's intolerance, it could be irritability. Irritability is very easy in our society. Not full-blown anger, you know, screaming and shouting, ah, you know, like this. But I just missed the bus, so I'm irritable. Just miss it. Or somebody takes the seat on the bus, and it was my seat, right? At this moment, I could become irritable, but I choose not to. So you get onto the bus and you think, aha, my seat, my seat. And then somebody goes and sits there. And instead of thinking, so happy you got a seat, you think, all the way there, you think, my seat, my seat. You're looking at that person. You can really build up anger towards that person who took my seat because I possess that seat in my mind. Because I want happiness and I don't want suffering, but I am velcroing my mind for suffering and I'm Tefloning my mind for happiness. So His Holiness often says, what we want and how we behave are not in accordance with each other. We have to pause there, take a breath, think. What we want is happiness. What we're often doing is creating more causes of suffering because we're primed for suffering. You know, our brains are primed for suffering because we see danger everywhere. We see dinosaurs everywhere. The boss is a dinosaur, the person taking the seat on the bus is a dinosaur. When I say dinosaur, what I'm saying is it's so threatening that you have a strong reaction to it, and then there's this chemical reaction, mental reaction, that says, do something, fight, or run. It's still there. From millions of years ago, it's still there. And it's very basic, it's very primary. And it's mixed in with this ignorance. That when the enemy appears, you just took my seat. The enemy appears, then the enemy seems to be truly existent and dangerous. So you have a chemical reaction, you have an emotional reaction, you have a mental reaction. What are all those reactions doing? Do you think, I'll give you a choice now, do you think it's going to create happiness? Put your hand up. Suffering. We can all put our hands up, right? Do you see what I mean? What we want is happiness, and yet we haven't been taught how to bring about the happiness. What we've been taught by our mother, our father, the history, the DNA is there. Life after life after life, we've been passing on the information. Life is danger. There are dinosaurs out there, and you have to velcro yourself to the unhappiness, because then you'll know what the danger is all about. And don't believe in happiness. And then you come into Buddhism and we say, well, what we're trying to gain and we're trying to engender, we're trying to encourage is happiness. And we say, yes, absolutely, I love the sound of that. But we've got the Teflon for happiness. So we start to feel some happiness and it goes whoosh. You know? Oh, I shouldn't hold on to that. That would be wrong. You know? So why wrong? Why would it be wrong to be happy? Why is it right to suffer? So then you can go back to what Buddha said, First Noble Truth, the truth of suffering. And you say, well, Buddha said, First Noble Truth is suffering. He didn't say you must suffer. He said, we are suffering. Because of ignorance, because of the way we're set up. So he gave you that truth, the sickness, and he said, but the medicine is, so we have to change, right? So as you start to change, you have to accept that things are going to change. Your view of the world is going to change. Your view of people is going to change. Your view of everything is going to change. But we have to allow that change, because if you don't, you're limiting yourself to the Teflon of happiness and the Velcro of suffering. And you're stuck there. You know? Happiness, whoosh. Suffering, I'm sticking to it. This makes me feel good. I'm lying awake all night, torturing myself with what somebody said. You know, they look at you and they say, ooh, I really like your hair. And you go, lie awake all night and you go, really? And if they say, I really don't like your hair, you lie awake all night saying, why? You know? Because we're so sensitive. And we don't know ourselves. In Buddhism, we have 3 levels of Buddhism. Theravadan, Mahayana, Tantric path. The Theravadan is limiting. It's very limited. It's limited to you and your bubble that you're in, and it addresses that bubble. And it says, okay, let's look at that bubble. Let's look inside that bubble and investigate what's going on inside there, in that bubble. The least is, don't harm others. How not to harm others? Well, don't harm yourself. And what you don't like, don't do to others. This is fair enough, isn't it? If you don't like gossip, you don't like people gossiping about you, don't gossip about them. Do you want to be killed? People say, of course I don't want to be killed. Well then don't kill. Even the smallest ant, even the cockroach, don't kill. Okay, yeah, I get this. You know, on that level you can get it. It's simplistic. Stealing, do you like having your thing stolen? You put something down, you come back, it's gone. Why? I don't understand this. Just 2 minutes ago it was there. Whoosh, somebody came in and took it, you know. Oh, I like that. And they take it. Why? Because I did it. Right? And then that's your karmic action. That I've been doing that for a long, long time. So then I put something down, it disappears. Why? Because I created it. I don't like the experience of it, so therefore I know what to change. Isn't it? It's simple. Killing, stealing, lying. Do I like people cheating me? Lying to me? Of course not. Who does like it? If you're in a relationship, you don't like it, do you? I'll be home late tonight, dear. Where are you going? Oh, just got some business people to talk to. But it's not true. And so you feel this sense of something strange is going on. Or your friend tells you a lie and you think, I'm not sure that's true. You know, you seem to have this feeling of, I'm not being told the whole truth. We don't like it. It unnerves us. So killing, stealing, lying, sexual misconduct. Sexual misconduct means basically, if you're in a relationship, going outside the relationship, or if somebody else is in the relationship, joining with them. Particularly, as Holiness says, when there's children, because you can harm the relationship. Do you like it being done to you? Of course not. Intoxicants, well, there's a whole range of intoxicants nowadays, but what does it do to your mind? Confuses your mind, isn't it? It can confuse you. So when you're using intoxicants, even that glass of wine, after one glass of wine, you start to be affected. Scientifically. But Buddha said, even one glass of wine can affect you. One glass of beer can affect you. And in our society, it's so acceptable to drink, isn't it? To have alcohol. So if you say, I've given up alcohol, they say, ooh, totally weird. And I don't eat meat. Or have milk. And they go, oh no, You're not one of them, are you? You're not vegan, you know? So society actually can probably cope with you being vegetarian, can probably cope with you being vegan, but go without alcohol? Totally weird. So intoxicants, we're quite addicted to it as a society.
Also sugar and coffee. It's also addictive.
It can also have an effect on your mind. Anything that can affect the mind, that can affect the energy and confuse you, this is an intoxicant. So we have to look more broadly, you know, not just at what we generally think of as intoxicants, but something like gluten can cause reaction. Peanuts can cause severe reactions in people, physical reactions, that then the mind can't cope with, you know. Peanuts. People die
To eat too much.
to eat peanuts.
Too much.
Yeah.
With
Well,
excess.
too much.
Not?
If you're allergic, a few can create incredible confusion. I used to teach in Pokhara in Nepal. It's a very nice area where there's a beautiful lake, and when I'd arrive on the bus, I'd stay in a hotel one night and then the next day go to the Buddhist center. And in the war, there was a communist war which went on for many years. These people who, I don't know what they were fighting for, but they were fighting for something. They were creating a lot of problems around the Kathmandu area, the Pokhara area. So the business went down and down and down. So I saw this hotel that at one time had many people working, go from 10 people working to 5 people working to only one man. And this one man would wash the sheets, iron the sheets, clean the rooms, change the beds, the towels, washed everything by hand, not in a machine. And shopping, cooking, everything. One man. He was about 22, 23. So the Buddhist center was looking for a cook. So I mentioned to this young man, the Buddhist center's looking for a cook, and you'd be really good. And the job would be much easier than this job. About the same money, but he was Buddhist, so wouldn't it be nice to work in a Buddhist place? And he said, yes, but I promised I will stay in this hotel for 2 more years, and then I can leave. Okay, so he always slept on the floor in the dining room. He had no room, he just slept on the floor. So he worked 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. Slept on the floor in the dining room, and he used to go to bed at 12 o'clock at night, and at 6 o'clock in the morning he'd be up. So I went away, and when I came back, I went past this hotel, and there was a big crowd outside the hotel. So I went to the Buddhist center and I said to them, you know that hotel where I always stayed? There's a big crowd and the police are there. So the boy from the Buddhist place, he went down on the bicycle and he came back and he said, you know that young boy who was a very good worker that you recommended to come and work here? He's dead. So I'd only been away a few days, 4 or 5 days. So the story was, this boy was so nice, so kind, everybody liked him. So an Australian man was trekking all around Annapurna, and he was thinking, what can I bring back that will make this boy happy? No. Peanuts.
Oh no. And it was allergic.
So he brought back 1/2 kilo of peanuts. We know this part of the story because this is midnight. An American came back to the hotel and the boy's lying on the floor with his plate of peanuts, eating, you know, like this. And the American guy said to him, oh, yeah, you've got many peanuts. And, oh, yes, yes, they're delicious, you know. Can I have a can of cola? Coca-Cola. Yes. He goes off to bed. They come down at 6 o'clock in the morning. The boy's dead on the floor. They do an autopsy, allergic to peanuts. He never knew. So something very simple nowadays, something very simple. You don't know, but it can be an intoxicant for your mind. And we experiment so much these days with so many things.
But is it mine? Isn't it not like he can't breathe or like asthma reaction or it's not like mind they say in bye-bye.
Hmm?
I mean, you says like, is it mind that decide, if you eat a peanut, is it the mind that decide that you cannot bear it?
Is it the mind?
Is it the mind?
No, it's physically there's a reaction
Yes.
which confuses the mind. The mind and the body are very connected. You can't separate mind from body. The mind inhabits the body. So when people come into Buddhism, they think what we're saying is give up everything. No, give up food, give up this, don't exercise, sit in meditation all day, you know. But what we're saying is have a good balance between everything. Whatever you're doing in your life, find a balance. We all need to find a balance. Whatever that balance is for you. The right food, the right things to drink, the right amount of sleep, the right amount of meditation. There's no formula for any of this. You have to find your own balance. Avoid the things that confuse you, that create a physical confusion and a mental confusion. Avoid those things. And the things that promote your health, your well-being, then look at those things. We need to know. Now we really need to know what's good for us and what's harmful for us. Where was I? How did I get onto that? Correct. The Theravadan path. Limited. Simple. Right? Not complicated. So you keep investigating your suffering. My suffering, my solution, my problems, how to fix them. You're looking at that. That's the foundation of Buddhism. Looking inwards, looking at me. Then at some point, you look outwards and you think, I wonder if she's suffering. I wonder if he's suffering. Of course, you find out they are. His Holiness says everybody smiles when you first meet them, but after 10 minutes, they'll tell you all their problems. Right? You never meet anybody who says nothing's wrong. There's always something after 10, 15 minutes. So when you start to investigate out there what you discover, it's not just me suffering.
We love problems.
They're all suffering, right?
We love problems.
Yeah. We're Teflon. We're Teflon for problems, right? So everybody has suffering. Then the Mahayana path comes, where you've understood your own suffering, you've understood your own problems and where they come from, and these 5 basic negative actions. What to avoid, what to promote. Not killing, not stealing, not lying, no sexual misconduct, no intoxicants. And now you start thinking about, instead of killing, saving lives. Instead of stealing, being generous and being offering and protecting. Instead of lying, truthful words, using your words to give power to others, to lift others up. Sexual misconduct, now sexual conduct. So don't harm others with sexuality. And then intoxicants, have a clear mind. Be centered, be balanced. So from that beginning, you start to understand there's a doing. Not just an avoiding, but a doing, something to do. Because we think there's something to avoid. Not killing, not stealing. But also, when you grow, there's something to do. A promotion of positive actions. Then in the beginning, I do this just for me. But then, I start to look at the other suffering, and I start to understand they also don't want to be killed, they also don't want to be lied to, cheated, etc. Same. So it's not just about me, it's also about them. And that's when my mind automatically starts to switch over to Mahayana, that just as I want to be liberated from my suffering, they want to be liberated from their suffering. I have the method, the Dharma, but most people don't have the Dharma. I often give the example of a city. This city, I think 2 million people. We don't even have 1% in this room. So 99% not aware how to liberate. 99%. So you're the extraordinary ones. You're something unbelievable. But out there, Friday night, you know, ha 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 ha, you know, then go home, what I call the living dead. If you don't believe in zombies, you have to go outside the nightclub at 3 o'clock in the morning when they're coming out. Then you see the living dead. But that's more normal. You say, oh, I'll go to a Dharma class, and we talk about mind, and we talk about happiness and suffering. They think, strange, very strange. Right?
They don't have pleasure.
Pleasure.
People say, but you don't smoke, you don't
Yeah,
drink,
exactly.
You don't
Yeah.
eat meat,
Yes.
you don't make sex, maybe.
Yes.
But you don't have pleasure.
You're strange people, isn't it? Yeah. You can't be happy without these things. And that's what we need to investigate. Is it really important to kill, to steal, to lie, sexual misconduct, intoxicants? Is it really important to have them in order to be happy, or can you be happy without them?
Yes.
Of course we can be happy without them.
More.
Yeah. Then the next step is you have to promote the positive. And then the next step is you have to start looking not just at yourself, but other situation.
So is happiness different on the Hinayana level, Theravada level, than Mahayana? Because I'm really contemplating about happiness, what happiness actually is.
You don't have happiness.
Sometimes
You don't have happiness.
Oh, of course I am, but it's...
But you don't have happiness. If you have real happiness, yes, there's happiness. But what we call happiness is temporary alleviation of suffering. There's a difference between the bliss of happiness and pleasure. What we call happiness in the West should actually be relabeled as pleasure. Pleasure is alleviation, temporary removal of suffering. So when you feel hungry, you know, your stomach goes, and you think, okay, I should eat, then it's a temporary alleviation of the suffering of hunger, empty stomach. Then if you eat enough, you're full, then you feel happy. We call happy, but it's not. It's pleasure. It's the temporary alleviation of the suffering of hunger. And then it comes back. If it was permanent, bliss is permanent, right? So if you have bliss, it's permanent because it's come from a realization of wisdom, gives you bliss. That's happiness. So when we talk about true happiness, we're talking about happiness that comes without causes. Our happiness comes from causes. Who spoke?
Me.
Who spoke?
I don't want to take your time.
I'm only here for you.
Okay. No, it's because this was talking about happiness, and I'm very confused as well in general, you know, because what we think is happiness, maybe it's just like, I'm glad, right? I'm happy in this moment, like you said.
Yeah.
The other day I saw this read this article about Finland. It's considered the most happiest country in the world,
Right,
according to the statistics.
right.
I was like,
Not Bhutan.
okay, no, it's Finland, and then Denmark. And I was like,
Where's Sweden?
I don't remember, but
Not even on the list.
Yeah,
Oh, it's on the list.
It's one of the first, actually.
Ah.
Yeah.
So you're happy. You people. But I'm not feeling it. Yeah.
No, but I was wondering, because when I went to Finland, I saw like people drink a lot.
Yes. And smoke a lot.
And I was thinking, and then I comment on this article in the newspaper.
Yes.
And my experience.
Yes.
And then the people said, that has nothing to do with happiness. It's maybe they are happy, but they don't show.
Oh.
Okay. So, yeah. So is that possible, being happy and intoxicate yourself? Because in my mind,
yes.
sometimes alcohol is used, or drugs,
yes.
is used just to relieve you.
To relieve the suffering.
Yeah.
You know, my first experience of Finland, many years ago I went to Finland in the winter, and it was minus 25, and we were driving from the airport into the city, and I saw people living in bus shelters with a trolley. You know, they have the trolley and everything in the trolley, and drinking. So I asked this friend of mine who's a doctor, she's a psychiatrist doctor, who'd organized some teachings that I was going to give to hospital people of all sorts. So I asked her, what's all this about? And she said, well, sometimes they don't have enough beds in the hostels that they provide for people who are living on the street. So even though it's a very affluent society, they don't provide for all of the suffering people who are living on the street. So then they have to live on the street.
Yeah.
Minus 25, they're living on the street. So then the only way for them to survive is to drink alcohol, because it heats the body. In Buddhist time, alcohol was a medicine. So Buddha would say if your body was very cold, you take a little alcohol. When your body heats up, he said, now stop. It's not used as a medicine. It's used as something to stop you from experiencing the suffering. Yeah, that suffering awareness, that gross awareness. I'm really suffering. So then you drink or you use drugs in order to cut that awareness. And then maybe some people would call that, you know, the intoxication. They would call that happiness, but it's not the Buddhist idea of happiness. It's caused through a substance, which means you need to repeat the substance in order to repeat the same realization, you know. It's not permanent. If you have the realization of emptiness, you have bliss. And this is said to be 1,000 times greater than anything we've ever experienced in our normal pleasures. Our normal pleasures are chocolate and coffee. You know, we stay in samsara because we have cafe latte. You know, we like samsara, actually. Sacre bleu, as we say in France. Meur d'alors, as we say. My grandmother was French. She used to say, Meur d'alors, and don't you ever say this, she used to say. Meur d'alors.
No, she didn't say, right?
No, she didn't. She wasn't Italian. She didn't cross over. But, you know, chocolate, coffee, nice clothes, good shoes, anything like that, good food. You know, what are we addicted to? What do we keep going back to in order to produce something? You know, we don't eat horrible food. We don't choose the thing on the menu that we really hate. We choose the thing that we really like, right? So it's about attachment and desire. So Lama Zopa used to say, if one bar of chocolate gives you happiness, 5 bars of chocolate should give you bliss, and 10 bars of chocolate, you're like enlightened, you know? But instead, we keep eating chocolate and we feel sicker and sicker and sicker. So there's a point at which your external pleasures turn into pain. Right? It goes from pleasure to pain. True happiness does not. I think it's probably the test of true happiness, that it's not conditional, it's not chocolate, it's not coffee, it's not anything out there, it's something in here. In here. It just arises. You know, haven't you ever had that day when you wake up and you think, wow, what a day? You know, that real happiness that surges up, and then you just think, wow, this is incredible. But there's no particular cause for it. It's not that somebody's coming to visit you, it's not that you've got a new job, it's just you're happy. Imagine that, but multiplied by 1,000 times. That's what we'd be talking about. That's the aim in Buddhism, because if you've got that bliss, then you can use that bliss to help others have that same bliss.
So the Finnish have that.
No. I think they've got economic conditions, they've got good economic conditions, which they would call happiness, on the happiness quotient. They would say, yes, they've got good housing, good social. You know, they did this special thing where they gave social security to everybody.
Okay, yeah.
That was one of the reasons that they got this. Number one is because everybody without a job got a certain amount of money every week, no matter whether you asked for it or not. And they didn't ask what you did with it. It didn't matter how much money you had in the bank, nothing. They just gave it to you as a social experiment. I think they only did it for 6 months, wasn't it? 6 months or a year or something? As a social experiment to see what would happen. And people felt uplifted. They felt trusted and believed in by the government. And then the surveys were that people said, I really appreciated the way the government treated me, so now I'm looking for a job. And I've been out of a job for so many years, but I felt the government were valuing me, that they were giving something to me. We don't often feel this from our governments, you know, from the social system, that please, please, I'm out of a job and I need money, and they come back in a week, you know, and I want to see proof that you've been looking for a job. What we're looking for is a more enlightened management, you know. Where does it come from? You. It has to start with you. It doesn't start with the government. Where does the government come from? People. Where do people come from? Us. So any change in society has to come from a change of heart within us, instead of going out and blaming the government and blaming the world and the politicians and, you know, all this. It's got to come back to us. What am I going to do? What do I believe in? Right? And so when you're talking about pleasure, happiness, I often give the example of a septic tank. This tank where you've got a lot of unmentionable subjects, substances. It's dirty, disgusting. And you're in it. And the water's rising. And there's a sign over there saying, exit. You can get out. But in the tank, there's coffee, there's tea, there's biscuits, you know, there's chocolate. And you think, well, the tank's not so bad after all, you know. Yes, it's a bit smelly sometimes, but I can decorate, and I've got spray. Psh, doesn't smell so bad now, you know. So I've got this spray that will change the smell, and I can decorate a little bit, and a few lamps and curtains, and the septic tank will look quite nice, right? So we're, each one of us, because we're in samsara, each one of us is living in the septic tank. But when we talk about renunciation, to give up, oof, give up what? Do I have to give up my coffee, my tea, my chocolate, my food, my clothes? And Buddha didn't actually talk about giving those things up. But he said, giving up the happiness of this life. Giving up the happiness of this life. Then you think, oh, that's even worse. Giving up the happiness of this life. What does that mean? It means whenever the happiness arises, stop being attached to it. Right? Because those sticky fingers come out. Remember those sticky fingers with the jam? Or the treacle? You know, something sticky on them? And it sticks onto the happiness and says, don't go away. But because it's impermanent, it goes away. Then tomorrow, it's gone away, and then you wake up and you think, oh no, it's gone. And now I have to work hard to get the mind back up again. So then you push the mind up towards happiness. I'll buy you chocolate, I'll give you coffee, I'll do this and I'll do this, we'll go shopping, and the mind's starting to get excited, and then you do all that and you're at the peak, and then you start going back down again, and your sticky fingers of the mind are hanging on again. Don't go, but it's going. It's sliding through your fingers. So we spend a lot of time and energy on these temporary pleasures. Not long-term happiness. Not enlightenment. One of my students, last year, 2 years ago, she met me in Bulgaria. She decided, okay, in order to understand him, I need to learn English. So over 1 year, she studied English. Now, she came to the teachings in Vienna. She can listen in English. 1 year. She's in her 50s. She's learnt English. So I told her, if you spent the same amount of time and energy on enlightenment, you could have been a Buddha in 1 year. Instead, you just learnt English in 1 year. You understand? So if it's something like studying English or whatever you want to study, people will go for it. I'm going to get a PhD. I'm going to get a BA and MD and whatever. But if you say enlightenment, yeah, okay. You know, maybe it's not clear enough, not directed enough what we mean by enlightenment. We have to start with motivation that today, every day you get out of bed, for a positive reason, I'm going to live for that purpose. That's not enlightened, but it's an enlightened attitude.
How do you formulate it? If I'm lying here in bed and I think, oh Lord, how do I...
I'm going to get out of bed because Venerable Namgyel is sitting there waiting for me. That's tomorrow morning. And if I don't get out of bed and go and see him, he's going to call you. He has your phone number. No, but I'll get it. Okay. Generosity. We talk about the 6 perfections, okay? Generosity. To give. Right. So that, for some people, that could make them enthusiastic. Ethics, which is karma, what we're talking about tomorrow. To not harm. So ethics, morality. It's a bit difficult, but you know, in the sense of not harming. So today I'm going to live in a non-harming way. What you discover is you can't live in a non-harming way. It's impossible. So the least harm. Not no harm, because no harm, impossible. You'd have to stay at home, virtually not breathing.
What mean
harm, to hurt, to kill, to do some sort of negative towards another being. So as soon as you walk, you can walk on the ants. Yesterday, was it yesterday? I left Bern. Well, I left somewhere. I was flying from somewhere to somewhere. Anyway, it was snowing. And in the snow, the worms were coming out of the ground and then going onto the pathway. And people would just walk on them. Right? So they're going to work. They don't know about not harming. So they just walk on the worms and they kill them. So if you're the worm, you're thinking, I don't want to be killed. And if you're the human going to work, you don't care. Right? So to care. Ethics. Third one is patience. I'm going to get out of bed and be patient today. Sounds easy, but actually it's not so easy in our society to not be intolerant, to tolerate the difficult. Instead of, the minute you're cold, you pick up a remote control, you know. We've got so many remotes now, or the control on the heating, whatever it is. So instead of immediately moving to alleviate the suffering, sit with the suffering. You know, the minute your body says move, don't move. Wait and see what happens. The minute the mind says, get me a drink, you know, what would you like? Well, coffee would be nice. Okay. Instead of that, sit with it and say, do I really need it? You know? So patience, tolerance. This is not promoted in our society. We're in an instant society. Lama Yeshe used to say, You people have the best ingredients in the world, and yet you prefer instant mashed potato. He said, tastes like disgusting whatever. Instant mashed potato. It's like a powder that you mix with water. No taste. To go for taste instead. More difficult. Right? So tolerance, intolerance, very interesting, if that's the way your mind works. Then joy, enthusiasm is the fourth perfection. To wake up with enthusiasm, perseverance. So the mantra is, I'm not going to give up. I'm not giving up. So I'm not giving up on myself, and I'm not giving up on anybody, any being. The fifth one is concentration. So today, you said meditation. So today is my concentration day. Moments of concentration in the day. The sixth one is wisdom. So for us, Vipassana is concentration on wisdom. To have that realization of wisdom. You could choose love. Love is, I want you to be happy. Compassion, I don't want you to suffer. So I give people this to do as a homework. That for tomorrow, for instance, if tomorrow's the love day, then you wake up saying, okay, today's my day of love. I want everybody to be happy. So I'm getting out of bed with the motivation of love, which is the antidote for intolerance, impatience, and anger. And then the mantra, if you like, is, may you be happy. So when you see anybody, any being, a bird, a worm, may you be happy. Somebody sitting on your seat, may you be happy.
Does it have to be sung as it's a mantra?
No, just in your mind. First, the first labeling thought, when you see any being, not human being, but any being, the first thought that you have, before you have that critical thought, the judgmental thought, the irritable thought, whatever the thought could be, before that, the first thought, may you be happy. You understand?
Yes. And then you can say it too, or
You
can say
You mean out loud?
Yeah.
Well, you could end up in a mental hospital. You know, we are in Sweden. We're not in France.
Thought when you wake up, you think like, may I get up now to make people happy, or to make...
May all beings be happy.
Yes. But you also mentioned bliss. Bliss is so interesting. So how do you formulate this? To create bliss, or to be blissful, or to give
I think bliss also relates to happiness.
Yes.
That it's an accelerated happiness, an increased happiness.
Yes.
So I'd start with happiness.
Yes.
That whenever you see anything, you rejoice.
Oh, this is lovely.
You know, so you see something good, you rejoice.
Yes.
Somebody wanting, if you drive a car, somebody wanting to come in front of you, you let them, you rejoice.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
May you be happy. Somebody wants the seat on the bus, may you be happy, you rejoice. So may you be happy and rejoicing are very much connected. Instead of having that possessive mind of I want the happiness, you're actually offering it to others as a gift.
Yes.
You're saying, may you be happy.
Yes. Well, lovely.
There was one guy in Tasmania that actually did this in the city. He didn't get put in hospital, but he went round the city saying, may you be happy. Saying it. Because he was saying it in his mind, but after a while he said, I'm going to say it. So he said it to many people, and he'd say, may you be happy. And then people would stop and they'd say, what did you say? He said, may you be happy. Oh, well, may you be happy too. He said, people were quite shocked. Never heard anything like it. You know, somebody wanting them to be happy. A stranger wanting you to be happy is much more powerful than somebody you know wanting you to be happy.
Even more if the person's being mean to you, maybe.
If somebody's being mean to you,
Yeah.
yeah, well, they may not take it as being genuine.
Yeah, but that's the purpose.
If you're genuine,
That's the purpose.
yes. If you're genuine, then you think it in your mind. You don't need to say it. But then the feeling that you're giving out is, whatever you've done to me, then I'm not giving the same back to you.
This is good one.
Right? Somebody beats you,
Yeah.
you say, I beat you back.
No, no.
Somebody hates you, I hate you back. Not like this. Somebody doesn't like you, you give, may you be happy, back. Somebody, she'll explain it to you after.
I know English, it's not a matter of language.
Yeah. You have to work with it. Whatever anybody does to you that's negative, you don't own it, you don't take it on as your new behavior, you let it go,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you give back, may you be happy.
Oh, instead I give back, may you be happy.
Yeah.
That's what you meant.
That's all.
Those,
Just
like
you.
Velcro and Teflon.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
This is your way of thinking. This is your attitude, is may you be happy,
Yeah.
and not may you suffer.
Yeah.
Right? Because if we don't like their behavior, then what we give back is, you've made me suffer, now may you suffer. So we become just like them. We become what we don't like. They do something negative, now we're doing something negative. Their minds become negative, our minds become negative.
But it's so vicious. I've been fighting with this for 1 year with the person. It's really crazy because it's like the whole body reacts and reject, you know. After
You have a special room. You put them in the room, you lock the door, and you say, now I can be compassionate. But this is the opportunity for compassion. Somebody being difficult with you is the opportunity for wisdom, the opportunity for compassion, the opportunity to put meditation into practice. It's the opportunity for so many good things. Without that person, then how could you develop any good qualities? So this person becomes your guru. You know, we pray for gurus. You say, oh, Buddha, I really need a guru. So then this person is brought down right in front of you and says, I hate you, I don't like you, you're awful. And you say, wow, this is great. Buddha works so fast, you know. Thank you, thank you. But when this horrible person appears, after a while we start to think, oh, okay, enough is enough. You know, I've learnt my lesson, now let's move on. If you have created negative karma in the past, you don't know how long it's going to take before you finish that negative karma. So the finishing of this evening should be, we have accumulated countless negative karmas. You can do one of two things. You can either experience it, or you can purify it. If you want to experience it, then you will experience your suffering on and on and on and on until it's all gone. But it didn't give you that as a method. That's what we're already doing.
Yeah.
Then it's no method. He said, realize it, purify it. So first we have to recognize we're suffering. Then we have to recognize there's a medicine for the suffering. Then we can do something about it. But the other way, just experiencing it like you're saying, on and on and on and on. If you don't use it to transform the mind into happiness, into bliss, to overcome the suffering through the strength of mind, then there is no method. We're stuck.
Yeah.
Problem, stuck.
Yeah.
Problem, stuck. And then we say, why are you doing this to me? It's not fair. I'm a victim.
Yeah.
But we're not victims. We're women of power, right? So we're able to transform every negative situation into something positive. But if you don't think I'm a woman of power, then you think I'm a victim.
No, but many things I can transform.
But
this one,
this is the too hard basket.
I don't know how to get out of it and
Yes.
be kind, you know. I want to be one, you know, and not...
Yeah, it seems short term if you go, boom, you know, like this.
Yeah.
This will sort it out. But actually this comes back to you and gives you even more problems, even more suffering.
Suffering for 1 year.
Yeah. Oh, you could suffer for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. You know, 1 year is nothing. It's just the beginning. or as a friend of mine says, the beninging. So I have to finish on a joke, because we're talking about karma. There's a priest, not really a priest, I don't know what they call them, sort of evangelical minister or something like that, you know. And he has to say in his sermon, in the beginning, there was the Word, right? And the Word was God, isn't it? That's the way it starts. Yeah. So he starts off his sermon, in the beninging. And so it's on YouTube. You know, it became viral. His church must have become really super famous because of this. So he's like, okay. In the beninging. Okay, I can get it. Beginning, beginning, beginning. In the beninging. You know, he just can't get it. So you can hear voices behind him saying, beginning. He said, yes, yes, I know. He's saying to himself, beginning, beginning. Okay, in the beninging. And it goes on and on. The poor man, you know, it goes on and on like that. So I have a Swiss friend, and so whenever we hear the word beginning, we just say, beninging. You want it one way, but it happens another way. Right? We all have that. We want it this way, but it happens this way. And so our reaction is, I want to go left or right. But I can't go left, and I can't go right, and I can't go straight ahead. This is the Dharma practice. You have to sit. And you sit with it, and you allow it. Within your mind, you allow it. You give it space. Instead of contracting, you open. So this difficult situation teaches you to be open, to open your heart to even the enemy, even the most difficult person in your life. You have to open to that person. Because this person makes you contract. And the Dharma practice is to make you open. Bodhicitta, big mind. So we say, yeah, bodhicitta, it's lovely. But when we come across the enemy, there's contraction. We have to learn to sit on the cushion and allow. We can't go left. We can't go right. We can't go straight ahead. What do? We feel we must do something, but we can't do anything. That's when your Dharma practice comes into play, that you just sit with it and think there is no solution. The only solution is no reaction. Yeah? If there's reaction, boom, you know, this is not good enough. Things must change. You must stop being like this. Then you're giving back negative energy. So you're recreating the harm. It's coming back again. No end. They punch you, you punch them. They slap you, you slap them. They take your eye, you take their eye. Actually, I'll take two. You know? Mahatma Gandhi said, an eye for an eye, the whole world will go blind. So Dharma means stop reacting in a negative way. Sit. Just to sit and experience and let go instead of reacting. Or I call the cushion also the life simulator. Not stimulator, simulator. Simulator. You sit on the cushion and you imagine how you want it to be. Your reaction, how you want it to be in a difficult situation. What you would say in a difficult situation. You imagine the situation and you replay it. You reprogram it. And you do it in a new way. Not the way you're doing it. This is important. Yeah? Yeah. This is your bliss.
Yes, it's true.
Then bliss comes from this, because then you think, I have power. I have the ability. Yeah? You coming tomorrow? Yeah.
Yes.
You can ask tomorrow.
No, I finished. You answered. Or I just, it was
I'm so clever. Without getting the question, I can answer. Okay, so we'll stop here. And so tomorrow we have to talk about the more technical aspects of karma, Is anybody here studying the Discovering Buddhism course? Just you.
A few more coming on the weekend.
Is that a threat? Okay, so we have to cover certain aspects of Discovering Buddhism. Do you know which aspects we have to cover? Oh, that's easy then. But we will talk about cause and effect, and we'll talk about certain specific things, and also the parts of karma. And also I'd like to talk about purification. So we need to talk about karma, but also how to purify, which is through 35 Buddha, or through Vajrasattva practice and the 4 powers. So you need to know 4 parts of karma, then you need to know the 4 powers for purification, so that you know fully how to purify. You know, because I said to you, experience it or purify it. So then people say, well, what do I do? How do I purify? So first we really need to go into karma and what to avoid, so the actions to avoid, and why should we avoid them, and then what to promote, and then how to purify. So we'll talk about all of that. Okay? Okay. Thank you all very much for coming. And so the end of the day you have to dedicate. So going mad, motivation in the morning, action in the day, D, dedication at the end of the day. So what are you dedicating for? Then you should dedicate for all sentient beings to be happy, not to have suffering. All the people that you know who are suffering with illnesses, with job problems, relationship problems, all these worldly problems, may all these problems be resolved very quickly. May they have happiness very quickly. May the wars in the Middle East stop right now, because there's tremendous suffering in those countries. May the world's leaders have minds of compassion and bodhicitta. May all sentient beings quickly become enlightened. So it's very important to have a particular dedication that at the end of the day you can say, in order to feel that you're connecting with the suffering of the world. I particularly like Shantideva, and this prayer of Shantideva, for as long as sentient beings exist, you know, for as long as space exists, as long as suffering exists, I will stay around, I will be there. So this is an amazing stamp that says, okay, I'm in it for the long term, I'm in it as long as it takes to change things. I don't want to get out quickly. I want to be here where I can be of use. So at the end of the day, I told you, motivation, in the day action, the end of the day dedication. So then you've got mad, M-A-D, going mad every day. So when you wake up in the morning, you go mad. Doesn't mean standing on the bed going lulu, but motivation, action, dedication. Then it helps to remind you these 3 important things that you need to do every single day. And that changes your life. Thank you for that commentary. My hair just moved. This changes your life. Just having that motivation, living by your motivation if you can, and dedicating the merit at the end of the day, not just for yourself, but for all beings. This is life-changing, because already your mind is starting to live in a bigger way instead of a smaller way. Thank you all very much. See you tomorrow, some of you. And we start at 10 o'clock.